Hi loves, hopefully I have good connection. I've been trying to make this video forever. Turn on the chat. Okay, I've been trying to make this video all day. It has been the longest drive ever. Problem being, user issue. The problem is a user issue because I've stopped 100,000 times to shop, for gas, to look around places, you name it. I've stopped. So hi everybody that's hopping on. Hey Lovey, hey Raven. So I went to the cemetery this morning before I left town to visit my own mother on Mother's Day. Hi Bill. And I brought her some flowers, and then it was very emotional for me. I made a live video on Instagram about it, so I don't know if we have some Instagram people over here, but it was a little emotional. And I had planned to make this video anyway because I know holidays and special occasions, days like Mother's Day, are very emotional for those of us that have a loved one inside of prison. So hi Pikachu, hi Bill. I didn't see who just hopped on, but who else hopped on? But I'm trying to make this a little bit on the quick side. The girl that I am meeting, that I stay in the hotel room with, hey Kat, hey Sarah, there we go. When I go to visit, she's been there for a couple of hours and she's waiting for me to eat dinner. So we're going to make this on the faster side. But this is geared slightly towards parents, mothers of incarcerated children. However, those of our members who have children, so mothers who have, like their child's father is in prison, or if the mother is in prison and you're the husband, or honestly, I don't have children and I think that these tips are extremely helpful, especially for those of us who are struggling to this weekend on Mother's Day. I just recently lost my mom. So, but again, remember this was written for mothers of the incarcerated. Yes, I have to check with my dad. My grandmother just passed. Oh, Raven, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But yes, that is a good point. Check up on the people you love. You know, just remember, if the person that you love, whether they're incarcerated or whether they have passed, if they're not with you this Mother's Day, if it's your mother, or if you're the mother and it's your day that you want to be celebrating, but the baby's father is in prison, just remember that they're with you in your heart, okay? So while Mother's Day is often a moment of joy for some, it's also a time of anguish for others. And like we were just saying, if you lost your mother, or if you are the mother of an incarcerated child, it's common to have sympathy or even empathy for mothers who have lost children of their own, or their own mothers. But what about the pain of mothers whose children are incarcerated? One mother of an incarcerated child said, "It's a pain that's difficult to describe, mourning peppered with guilt, anger, and anxiety." Give me a like if you can understand that. It's a difficult pain, and the pain is difficult to describe. Mourning peppered with guilt, anger, and anxiety. Like almost all moms, most of these, thank you for the thumbs up, almost all moms, most of these mothers only wanted bright futures for their children. But unlike most moms, they live in perpetual fear that talking about their sons or daughters' incarceration will be met with judgment. They face that fear by remaining silent. And again, that's why I'm saying this isn't just for mothers of incarcerated children. I've been there, we've all been there. So when other people praise their children's success, or your husband's success, or their husband's success, or a family member's success, depending on who that person is to you, these moms wish they could chime in and share success stories of their own. Usually, they just listen. When someone asks what college their kids attend or what they do for a living, these moms sweat, quickly trying to figure out how to answer that question. And again, we can all relate to that, even if you're not the mother of an incarcerated child, but if you have anybody who's incarcerated. These moms hear ad nauseum, "Do the crime, do the time," or "They all deserve 3 hots and a cot." How's that for pouring salt into their already opened wounds? Hey, Ray Ray. As these moms try to remain hopeful, they carry the burden of feeling their children's pain, wondering what's going on behind those walls, yearning to know if their baby is okay. Is he hungry? Is she cold? Are they sleeping okay? Their pain is real. In sharing my personal thoughts around Mother's Day, I hope to brighten the day of not only these mothers of incarcerated children, but of each one of you. So here are 3 important tips that I want to share to help ease the parents of incarcerated children's pain. But again, this is for everybody, each and every one of you. Number 1, listen up, guys. Listen up. It is okay to be happy. When your child or your loved one is arrested, you will struggle. And whether it's appropriate to be happy. Your brain will tell you you have to wait until they're released before you can exhale. You'll think it's unjust to be free, enjoying life when they are behind bars. So the very first blog post that I wrote for Strong Prison Wives, back when it was just a blog, and I was doing just YouTube at the time under a different name called The Prison Wife. And you could see, like, back, my earlier videos have a different intro and outro. But I met this woman who was blogging and looking for guest authors under a blog called, wait for it, Strong Prison Wives. And so the very first guest author blog post that I wrote as a guest on that blog before we became affiliated and created Strong Prison Wives and Families together was a blog post about just this. Like, I went to a party the night before, and first of all, it took everything. It took years for me to go to a party. It took years for me to feel like I could celebrate. And so the fact that I believe it was, maybe I was like 29, 30, 31 years old. Well, I got back in touch when I was 31 with Adam. So like maybe like I was 30, 31 years old at the time. It took everything inside of me to feel comfortable at this party, even though people my age, that's what they did, right? You go out, you hang out with friends, but I always felt this guilt. I always felt like I didn't deserve to be there. I always felt like if Adam was stuck inside miserable, then I should be miserable. I felt guilty for partying until that day. And so, and you know, sometimes we feel like when we go into those things, we're going to feel so alone. And it's the same thing this year for Mother's Day, because my mom passed 4 weeks ago, and I went away for the weekend. But I asked my siblings, please do something with Dad. And when they asked him what he wanted to do, he was like, nothing. Because what you want to do is isolate yourself, and you want to really feed into that depression and mourn. But the thing is, the thought of doing something is excruciating, kind of. But once you do it, you realize how much you actually needed to do that. So there's a class called it's Grief and Coping for Loved Ones of the Incarcerated, and it goes into strong detail about this, and it's taught by a woman named Dr. Avon Hart Johnson, who I'm very friendly with. I sit on the board of her nonprofit. Her nonprofit is called DC Project Connect, and her son was incarcerated for a really long time, and when we first met, she told me her story, and her story was this. She, after her son at a very young age got incarcerated for a large chunk of time, didn't know how to handle it. So she moved into her mother's house, into a teeny tiny little room, and basically lived out of that room. She would go to work, she would come home, and she would live in that tiny little room, and she would not allow herself to have any kind of joy. She put herself in that tiny little prison because her son was in that tiny little prison. And so she felt like she needed to feel his pain. She felt like she needed to put herself, she felt like she wouldn't allow herself to experience anything other than what he experienced, because she felt like for some reason it was betraying him or abandoning him or denying him of her love if she lived her life. So through doing that for so long and becoming so miserable, she discovered that this is a very common thing. And she's also, by trade, she's a grief counselor and a therapist. So she created this class for us because it's something that she discovered in her research. Basically, we all do. So she is running another one of those classes coming up very soon. When she asked me if I would talk about it, she told me she would give a flyer, and that's not even what this is about. This actually came into my mind when I was talking on Instagram Live this morning. In case you don't follow us on Instagram, it's at Strong Prison Wives, if you want to follow us there. And also, if you're new here, and you'd like to, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss a future video. And really quick, to interrupt myself, usually I post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then one day I'll do a live video. Today, somebody requested this topic, so I pushed the video that was scheduled to post today to Monday. That's why I'm live on a Friday and you guys didn't get a video at 6 o'clock this morning. Okay, tip number 2. First, let's go back to number 1. Mama Ro is here to tell you that you have to live. A big part of living is choosing to find and accept happiness. Your happiness cannot be dependent on another person, including your own child. This is a journey. Prison, wife, and family life and family member life is a journey. And you're learning to give your child's missteps back to them to carry. We've learned that our refusal to find peace and happiness doesn't lighten the other person on the inside's load, or yours. You want me to repeat that? We've learned that our refusal to find peace in our own lives and happiness in our own lives, living vicariously and putting ourselves in prison and feeling like we need to be miserable, does not lighten the load of what they're going through on the inside. And it doesn't lighten yours either. Give me a thumbs up for that. Do you guys understand that? Do you need me to elaborate? Because I think that's pretty profound. Number 2, use and find your resources. So when I was in Dallas at the Prisoner Family Conference, the very first time that I went, it was in 2016, and I was sitting with Lauren, who you guys have met on videos in the past. I was sitting with Lauren and a couple of other girls from Strong Prison Wives waiting for a workshop to start. And there was this beautiful woman sitting behind us, and she overheard us talking, and she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "Excuse me, are you Ro?" And I said, "Yes, I am." I was discovered, by the way. Anyway, so I'm just kidding. But anyway, I said, "Yeah, I am." She goes, "Oh my gosh." She said, "I want you to know that I've been following you for a really long time, and I wrote about you and your organization in my book." And I was so touched by that. She said, "I really appreciate what you're doing." She said, "You're doing such a wonderful job. You're really touching lives. You're really helping people. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing." I was so touched. And every time I saw her throughout that weekend, we would chit chat a little bit, and I gave her a hug, and then we all went back to our own ways. So about 6 months later, I'm at home, right? And this is when that show 60 Days In was really popular. My God, I loved that show. In fact, one of my girlfriends just started watching it who does not have a loved one incarcerated. She said the Arizona one is amazing. I only watched season 1 and 2, maybe 3. I don't remember when I stopped. But anyway, I think it was season 2 or 3. I sit down to turn it on. I was so excited. And all of a sudden, they start introducing the cast. And lo and behold, there is the woman who sat behind me at that conference and told me that she wrote about me in her book as one of the people who was willingly going into prison for 2 months to help uncover the corruption in the prison system. Her name was Mona Lisa, if you guys watched the show. So Mona Lisa's background story is that her daughter became incarcerated at a very young age. She was in her early 20s in college. She got involved in a couple, experimenting and drugs and all that stuff. So she got a long mandatory minimum sentence. And so Mona Lisa dedicated her life to becoming an advocate for parents of incarcerated children. And that's why actually she chose to do 60 Days In, a show they asked me to do a while ago, and I said, "No, I'm too much of a wimp to go to prison," by the way. But she's a badass. And so she went in so she could understand what exactly her daughter was going through. And even though her daughter was like, "Mom, no, I got the burden for both of us," all of us and all of our loved ones on the inside say, Adam was like, "I got this for us." She wanted to understand what her daughter goes through. She wanted to be able to have that knowledge to help support parents of incarcerated children. And she wanted to build that bond stronger with her daughter, which she did. So her organization, for all of you moms out there and for all of you parents of incarcerated children, because a lot of people who are members of Strong Prison Wives have a significant other who is involved in the prison system, but they also have a son or a daughter, or we have JoJo, who is a wife of an incarcerated person and a sister of an incarcerated person. Why do I keep saying person? What is my problem? So anyway, Mona Lisa's organization is called Parents of Incarcerated Children. I think it's PIC is, let me just double check and make sure that's right. Parents with incarcerated children. Okay, so there's also, of course, wait for it, Strong Prison Wives and Families all over social media. So we're at strongprisonwivesandfamilies.com. Our site is still being rebuilt. But it's active. It's just not as active as it used to be. While it's being rebuilt, it's a work in progress. But anywhere on social media, you can find us. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, anywhere on social media, we have a platform, and it's at Strong Prison Wives everywhere except Twitter. It's Strong Prison WIV because the handle is just too long. But we have loved ones of the incarcerated from across the board. So when I started, it was Strong Prison Wives. That's it. But then as people started following, we had family members. We had fathers, sons, aunts, uncles, pen pals, friends, fiancés, girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, you name it. So our organization is there to support anybody who has a loved one of the incarcerated. And then also another group that I mentioned earlier with the grief and coping class is my dear friend, Dr. Avon, who runs DCPC, DC Project Connect. And I believe her website is dcprojectconnect.com or dcptc.com. If you just Google her name and her website, or if someone who knows it can pop it in the comments, she has that grief and coping class. And she also has, access. You could reach out to her if you're in crisis or if you need counseling, which we don't have that. Nor Russian. Oh my God, $1. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Oh my God, I just need to stop and say thank you for that. That is so, so sweet. I appreciate all of the donations so much. You guys don't understand. Maybe you do. I don't know. But how much they help the nonprofit keep growing, Strong Prison Wives and Families, because we are on 100% donations that we do not get a lot of. And I get it. We're all prison wives and family members. So the fact that you just donated, I just want to let you know how much you just touched my heart. So anyway, there is DCPC. And then also, something you can do is something that I found helps me is that you might want to get involved, and this is for anybody across the board as well, with active campaigns that help your cause. So for example, you can volunteer with Strong Prison Wives and Families. We're always looking for volunteers. Right now, caveat, we're not interviewing while there are three of the four of us that do interviews are going through a little bit of a busy season, but we will be starting up interview process. We're always looking for people. We're always looking for people with expertise that want to help. And you can fill out an application at bit.ly/SPWF volunteer app. Yes, and just like Lisanne said, you could go right to strongprisonwivesandfamilies.com and the application is on there as well. And then as soon as, it might take a couple days, so just be patient with us, but you'll hear back from Megan, who will schedule an interview with you. But also, you can, let's say your loved one is serving a mandatory minimum sentence like mine, you can get involved with an organization called FAMM, FAMM, Families Against Mandatory Minimums. You can become a guardian angel for somebody who is serving a long sentence, who is working with Amy at Can Do Clemency. I know Malik has tons of loved ones in prison because he's met them through this, his friends, and he has a very high up position for Can Do Clemency. She's always looking for help. She's a one-woman show, and she's turning into a nonprofit, but very, very, very overworked. She's always looking for help. Or Live Free is an organization that I just heard of when I was doing research for this video, and it's an organization that helps end mass incarceration in the United States. Giving a purpose to your struggle makes it so much easier. So I don't know that much about Live Free, but what I'm saying is, like, the whole reason Strong Prison Wives and Families is here is because I wanted to give a purpose to my longer than life sentence, and the fact that I was doing this alone and there was so much pain and I felt like nobody else was out there who could understand me. So now I've developed this community with you guys of close to 100,000 men and women, and we're strong and united front, and that has become my purpose. So I used my pain to become my passion project, to fuel my purpose, and you guys can do that as well to help ease your pain. You can join up with one of these organizations, and on behalf of Strong Prison Wives and Families, we would love to have you. It just helps make your struggle a little bit easier. It just helps. Like, for example, Lisanne just lost her husband in March inside of prison. She's joined up with some organizations. She's going to be giving a keynote at a family conference for prisoners that we'll talk about later. I don't know if I could say it yet, but I just did. But she's using that awful, god-awful experience to hopefully protect this from happening to other families and other people. Use your voice. You have it. Next up is, let's see, I lost my spot. Number 3. This is more for mothers than significant others, but walking away isn't usually an option. So here's a little story. Adam's mother always lived like 10 to 12 hours away from where he was incarcerated, because what happened was, originally his family's from Wisconsin. When he was young, maybe like 3rd or 4th grade, his parents got a divorce and his mother moved him to New Jersey. And so when he was in New Jersey is where he grew up, and he caught his case. His case is out of Philadelphia. So when he got incarcerated and he was inside a federal prison serving a life sentence, his mother moved back to Wisconsin to be with her family. But he can't leave the Northeast region, right? Unless he puts in for a transfer. It's complicated, this and that. So he was always incarcerated in the Northeast region, which is Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and then all the way down to West Virginia, I think. So it's just the Northeast region. We'll just leave it at that. So her drive to get to visit him was always very far. So in the beginning, she would always take, she's one of 9 children, so she'd always take an aunt, one of his aunts, one of her siblings with her. After a little while, her sister started making excuses that she didn't want to go to visit. And so apparently it was because Adam was in a phase where he was young and he was still kind of his foot was half in criminal life. He was still 22, 23, 24, 25 years old at this point. And so he was being a little bit manipulative, according to his aunt. So his aunt didn't want to watch that. So the point in telling you guys that is, don't give up on him. His mother never gave up on him. Although his aunt didn't want to see it, his mother kept going. And now that he's matured and he's grown up and he's got 2 feet all the way on the right side of the street, if that makes sense, they have this wonderful relationship. And every single time he sees her, he apologizes to her profusely for what he put her through during his young, troubled youth, and the fact that he's incarcerated for, the remainder of however long it takes to get this case overturned. And so the point to the moms out there is, although, be careful, there's being incarcerated is such an isolating experience. Oh, hey, soprano. Such an isolating experience and a dehumanizing experience. Some incarcerated individuals have no support system at all. One day, if they're released, no one will be there for them. Don't let this be the case for your child. Try not to not let them, is what I wrote. Wow, that's like really hard to say. Try not to not abandon your responsibility as a mother. Try not to abandon them. Oh my God, maybe I need to proofread. Of course, there will be healing work for both of you to do. Your child's poor choices may have caused a rift in the family. Manipulative or criminal behavior might still be happening. Tough love is still love, okay? It doesn't mean that you need to subscribe to their manipulation. It doesn't mean that you need to subscribe to their criminal behavior. You can still love them and support them and not support all of that other crap. There's ways that you could do that. Tough love is still love. However, that doesn't necessarily look like severing all ties completely forever, right? You just have to figure out what that is for you and what that looks like for you. So Brian Stevenson is a well-renowned anti-death penalty and public interest attorney, and I freaking love him. And he said, each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. You guys, give me a thumbs up on this video for that one. Is that not amazing, right? So he said, each one of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done. What he means is, right, he's an advocate for people on death row. He is a human rights attorney. And he says, Everybody's worth a second chance. Everybody is worth more than the worst act that they ever did. Could you imagine? Think of the worst thing that you've ever done, right? The worst choice you've ever made. If every single person that comes into your life holds that against you for the rest of your life, you are so much better than that worst decision that you ever made. Everybody makes mistakes, right? You are so much better than that, just as your incarcerated child or your incarcerated loved one is. Don't forget that. Everybody's worth a second chance. Mother's Day for mothers of incarcerated children, or mothers, period, or anybody, period, is a day of remembrance. It's also a day of gratitude for what was, sadness for what is, and eternal hope for what will be. Can't everybody relate to that? Let's talk about that one in the comments. Mother's Day for mothers of incarcerated children, or anybody, is anybody who has a loved one, is a day of, oh shoot, I think this is Adam, and we're to decline because last time everything froze. He'll call right back. Is a day for gratitude for what was, sadness for what is, and eternal hope for what will be. Stay hopeful, stay strong, love strong, and keep supporting one another through this journey, because you're one day closer to it all being behind you. Lots of love from my heart to yours. I will see you beautiful ladies and gentlemen in the next one. Thank you so much again for that $1. You guys, I got to get going, because if he calls back, everything's going to freeze and he'll worry that I didn't make it safely. So